The Grand Venetian Hotel's crystal chandeliers cast rainbow prisms across the marble floors as masked figures waltzed beneath them. Celeste Romano adjusted her violin's position, trying to ignore the growling of her empty stomach. 3 performances this week, and she still couldn't afford groceries. The irony wasn't lost on her, playing beautiful music for people who spent more on champagne than she made in a month. Her bow glided across the strings, filling the opulent ballroom with Vivaldi's Four Seasons. The masked crowd barely noticed her presence, which was exactly how she preferred it. Anonymous, professional, invisible. That changed the moment she spotted him. He stood apart from the crowd, no mask despite the evening's theme, his dark hair catching the light as he moved with predatory grace. While others flaunted their wealth through excessive jewelry and elaborate costumes, he wore a simple black tuxedo that probably cost more than her rent. There was something magnetic about his stillness, the way he seemed to absorb every detail of the room without appearing to watch anyone at all. Their eyes met across the ballroom, and Celeste nearly missed her next note. His gaze was intense, almost calculating, as if he could see straight through her professional facade to the struggling artist beneath. She forced herself to focus on the music, letting Vivaldi's passion flow through her fingers. The audience began to quiet, drawn by the raw emotion she was pouring into each phrase. This was her gift, the ability to make people feel something real, even in the most artificial of settings. The explosion shattered both music and tranquility. The massive chandelier directly above the mysterious man groaned, its golden chains snapping like guitar strings. Crystal cascaded through the air in slow motion as the fixture plummeted toward the dance floor. Screams erupted from the crowd as people scattered in their designer gowns and tailored suits. But Celeste didn't stop playing, even as chaos erupted. Around her, even as security guards rushed through the panicking crowd, her bow continued its dance across the strings. Something deep inside her refused to let the music die, as if maintaining the melody could somehow hold the world together. The chandelier crashed mere feet from where the dark-haired man had been standing. He'd moved at the last second with fluid precision, diving behind an overturned table. Blood trickled from a cut on his temple where flying crystal had found its mark, but his eyes remained sharp and alert. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm and exit through the nearest doors," announced a voice over the intercom, but Celeste played on, her violin singing a mournful counterpoint to the chaos. When the last note faded, the man was standing, again, staring at her with something that looked like wonder mixed with calculation. "Magnificent," he murmured, just loud enough for her to hear across the sudden silence. Part 2. Digital Shadows. Detective Riley Park arrived at the Grand Venetian within minutes of the emergency call, her sharp eyes immediately cataloging the scene. Broken crystal, overturned tables, and shell-shocked witnesses in evening wear. But something felt off about the whole setup. "Standard chandelier failure?" she asked the hotel manager, a nervous man who kept dabbing sweat from his forehead. "That's what we thought initially, but—" He gestured toward a woman approaching them with military precision. Nina Volkov moved like a panther in designer heels, her platinum hair pulled back severely, revealing the small scar that ran from her left ear to her jaw. Everything about Damian Cross's head of security screamed danger, from her cold blue eyes to the way her hand rested casually near the concealed weapon beneath her jacket. "Detective Park? I'm Nina Volkov, head of security. For Mr. Cross, the man who was nearly killed tonight." Riley studied Nina's face, noting the accent she couldn't quite place. "Nearly killed seems dramatic for a maintenance accident." It wasn't an accident. Nina pulled out a tablet, swiping through technical readouts. "I've already run preliminary scans. The chandelier support system was compromised through the hotel's smart building network. Someone hacked into the structural monitoring system and triggered a controlled failure." "That's—" Riley paused, processing the implications. That's incredibly sophisticated. The person we're dealing with doesn't make simple mistakes. Nina's expression darkened. Mr. Cross has been receiving threats for 3 months now. Always, signed the conductor. Always promising to make him pay for his sins through elaborate performances. Riley felt her pulse quicken. This was exactly the kind of case that had drawn her to cybercrime, where technology became a weapon in the hands of someone brilliant and twisted. "Show me everything," she said. They moved to a quiet corner where Nina spread out printed messages on a marble table. Each threat was written in elegant script, references to musical terms woven throughout. "Your final performance approaches, Damien Cross. The overture was just the beginning. Soon you'll dance to my composition, and the crescendo will be your last. Every note must be paid for. Every stolen melody demands retribution. The symphony of your destruction has already begun." Riley studied the papers, her detective instincts tingling. These aren't random threats. This person knows something specific about Cross's business dealings. "That's what concerns me most." Nina's voice dropped to a whisper. "Damien built his empire on acquiring smaller tech companies, often in hostile takeovers. But lately we've discovered some of those acquisitions involved questionable practices, patents that may have been stolen, inventors who died under mysterious circumstances. And you think the conductor is connected to one of these cases?" Nina nodded grimly. "The violin player, Celeste Romano. She wasn't supposed to be here tonight. Her name was added to the performer list only 48 hours ago, right after our last threat arrived." Riley's blood chilled. "You think she's working with the conductor?" "I think she's the next instrument in their orchestra." Nina's eyes tracked across the ballroom to where Celeste was giving her statement to another officer. "And Damien doesn't see the danger because he's already fallen for her music." Part 3. The Phoenix Corporation. Marcus Thorne waited in the shadows of the hotel's garden courtyard, his silver hair gleaming under the moonlight. At 52, he possessed the kind of weathered handsomeness that came from years of making hard decisions in corporate boardrooms. His expensive suit couldn't quite hide the tension in his shoulders as he watched Celeste Romano emerge from the police questioning. "Miss Romano," he called softly, stepping into the light. Celeste spun around, still clutching her violin case protectively. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "Marcus Thorne, Phoenix Corporation." He extended a business card with steady hands, though his dark eyes remained troubled. "I was at the Gala tonight. I saw what happened." "Then you saw more than I did. I was focused on playing." Marcus smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. You have no idea how much danger you're in." Before Celeste could respond, another voice cut through the night air. "Mr. Thorne, I'm Dr. Evelyn Price, FBI behavioral analyst." A woman in her 40s approached them, her auburn hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Behind wire-rimmed glasses, her green eyes held the sharp intelligence of someone who spent her days mapping the minds of killers. "I'd like to ask you both some questions." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I assume this is about the conductor?" Dr. Price raised an eyebrow. "You know about the conductor?" "I know Damien Cross has enemies." "I should. I used to be one of them." Marcus turned to Celeste, his expression urgent. 3 years ago, Damien and I were partners. Phoenix Corporation was developing revolutionary audio technology, equipment that could manipulate sound waves in ways never before possible. Damien stole our research, destroyed my company, and left me with nothing. "That's a serious accusation," Dr. Price said carefully. "It's the truth. But I'm not the conductor, if that's what you're thinking." Marcus pulled out his phone, showing them a message. "I received this 2 hours ago." The text was brief but chilling. "The opening act is complete. Next, we eliminate the supporting players. Then the star falls." Dr. Price studied the message, her mind racing. The conductor isn't just targeting Damien. This is about everyone connected to his business dealings. Which brings us to you, Miss Romano. Marcus's voice carried genuine concern. You weren't randomly selected to play tonight. Someone orchestrated your presence here. Celeste felt the blood drain from her face. That's impossible. My friend Alina got me this gig through her contacts. Dr. Price, Marcus interrupted. I've been tracking the conductor's patterns. Every attack has occurred at a venue featuring specific classical pieces. Tonight, it was Vivaldi's Four Seasons. Last month in Chicago, it was Mozart's Requiem. Before that, Beethoven's Symphony No. 9 in San Francisco. Dr. Price's eyes lit up with understanding. The musical selections aren't random. They're signatures. Each piece corresponds to something specific. What do you mean? Celeste asked, though part of her already dreaded the answer. The conductor is building toward something bigger, Dr. Price explained. In behavioral psychology, we call this escalating artistic violence. The perpetrator sees their crimes as performances, each one building toward a grand finale. Marcus nodded grimly. And based on the pattern, I believe the finale is designed to destroy not just Damien, but everyone who's helped him build his empire, knowingly or unknowingly. Celeste clutched her violin case tighter. But I don't even know Damien Cross. I just met him tonight. That may not matter to someone who sees the world as their stage, Dr. Price said softly. In the conductor's mind, you're now part of Damien's story, which means you're part of the symphony they're composing. The three stood in silence as the weight of the revelation settled over them. Somewhere in the darkness, a master manipulator was orchestrating events with deadly precision, and Celeste had unknowingly become both performer and target in a concert that could end with everyone's death. James Blackthorne stepped out of the shadows of the hotel's antiquated library, his presence as sudden and unsettling as a discordant note. At 45, he possessed the refined elegance of someone who dealt in beautiful, dangerous things. Rare manuscripts, stolen paintings, and secrets worth killing for. His dark eyes held the weight of someone who had seen too much of humanity's darkness. You're all missing the larger composition, he said quietly, causing the three to spin, around in surprise. Dr. Price's hand moved instinctively toward her weapon. Who are you? James Blackthorne. I deal in acquisitions, and I've been tracking the conductor across 4 cities and 7 murders. He approached slowly, hands visible, carrying a leather portfolio that looked centuries old. The pattern isn't about business revenge, Dr. Price. It's about stolen symphonies. Stolen what? Celeste asked, her violin case feeling suddenly heavier in her grip. James opened his portfolio, revealing yellowed sheet music and faded photographs. 19 years ago, a brilliant composer named Victor Alexandrov created revolutionary audio technology alongside his musical compositions. Equipment that could manipulate brainwaves through specific sound frequencies, the basis for everything Damien Cross built his empire on. Marcus stepped closer, studying the documents. I've never heard of Alexandrov. Because he died in a house fire before he could patent his work, officially ruled an accident. James's voice carried bitter knowledge. Damien acquired Victor's research through a shell company, then built Blackwood Technologies on stolen innovations. But Victor wasn't just an inventor, he was a father. Agent Sophie Chen emerged from the hotel's main entrance, her FBI badge catching the courtyard. Lights. At 38, she possessed the lean efficiency of someone who hunted corporate terrorists for a living. Her black hair was pulled back severely, and her dark eyes missed nothing as she approached the group. James Blackthorne, she said without preamble, we've been looking for you for 6 months. I've been looking for justice for 6 years, James replied calmly. Agent Chen, I presume? Your reputation for hunting white-collar killers is impressive. Sophie's hand rested on her weapon. What do you know about the conductor? I know the conductor is Viktor Alexandrov's daughter. Katerina, she was 12 when her father died, 18 when she discovered the truth about who stole his life's work. James pulled out a photograph, a young woman with haunting dark eyes and delicate features. She's been systematically targeting everyone who profited from her father's death. Dr. Price studied the photo with professional interest. The musical selections, they're her father's compositions? Each piece performed at the attack sites corresponds to one of Victor's stolen works. Tonight's Vivaldi was Victor's Seasons of Sorrow. He composed it the week before he died, knowing someone was threatening his family. Celeste felt ice forming in her stomach. But why involve me? I never hurt her father. Because you're the final note in her symphony of revenge, Sophie said grimly, pieces clicking together in her mind. She's not just killing Damien's body, she's destroying his soul first, making him care about someone, then taking that person away. Marcus pulled out his phone, checking the time. How long do we have? James consulted his own device, his expression growing urgent. According to the pattern, the finale always occurs exactly 72 hours after the overture. That gives us less than 60 hours to find her. Find her where? Dr. Price asked. The Alexandrov family estate, Sophie said, her training kicking in. If she's following her father's work, she'll want to end this where it all began. The place where Victor died. James nodded slowly. The estate has been abandoned since the fire, but the underground music room survived. Victor built it as a concert hall that could amplify his audio experiments. If Katerina wants to stage her final performance, she'll want the perfect acoustics for Damien's death, Celeste finished, her voice barely a whisper. Sophie was already reaching for her radio. We need a tactical team and a bomb squad. If the conductor is half as brilliant as her father, she's turned that estate into a death trap. There's something else, James said quietly. Victor's final composition, the one he was working on when he died, it's called Requiem for the Innocent. According to his notes, it was designed to be played as the ultimate expression of grief and rage. Marcus felt his blood chill. And Katerina plans to premiere it? With Damien and Celeste as her unwilling audience, Sophie confirmed. This isn't just revenge anymore. It's a performance art piece where the audience dies as part of the show. As if summoned by their conversation, Celeste's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The concert hall awaits, dear violinist. Tomorrow at midnight, you'll play your father's true masterpiece. Come alone, or everyone you love becomes part of the percussion section. K. The group stood in stunned silence as the reality hit them. They weren't just hunting a killer anymore. They were racing against time to prevent a finale that would turn murder into music, and music into the ultimate act of revenge. Part 5. Final Movement. The Alexandrov estate loomed against the storm clouds like a Gothic nightmare, its charred walls and broken windows speaking of tragedy frozen in time. Celeste sat in the FBI surveillance van, her hands trembling as she tuned her violin for what might be her final performance. Remember, the moment you signal distress, we move in, Sophie Chen said through the earpiece hidden in Celeste's hair. Don't try to be a hero. Heroes don't usually carry violins into death traps, Celeste replied, attempting humor to mask her terror. Damien Cross appeared at the van's door, his face pale but determined. 3 days of hunting had aged him years, the weight of his stolen empire finally crushing down on him. Celeste, you don't have to do this. I can face Katerina alone. She specifically asked for a violinist. Besides, Celeste managed a shaky smile. Someone needs to play her father's music the way it was meant to be heard, with love, not revenge. Dr. Price stepped forward, her psychological profile complete. Katerina Alexandrov spent 7 years in psychiatric facilities after her father's death. She's brilliant, damaged, and utterly convinced that murder is the only language powerful men understand. but there's still a part of her that's that 12-year-old girl who lost everything. Which means, Marcus asked, checking his own concealed recording device. Which means music might be the only thing that can reach her humanity, James Blackthorne said softly. He'd been carrying his own burden of guilt. He was the art dealer who'd unknowingly sold Victor's stolen compositions to Damien years ago. I've studied Victor's work. His music was about connection, healing, bringing people together. Everything Katarina is doing goes against his artistic vision. At 11:47 p.m., Celeste walked alone through the estate's overgrown gardens, her violin case feeling like both weapon and shield. The underground concert hall entrance was hidden beneath a collapsed conservatory, just as James had predicted. Stone steps led down into darkness, eventually opening into a circular chamber that took her breath away. Despite 19 years of abandonment, the acoustics were perfect. Every footstep, every breath echoed with crystalline clarity. Candles flickered around a restored grand piano, and in the center of the room stood a figure in white. Katerina. Alexandrov was beautiful in the way broken things could be beautiful. Sharp edges and damaged surfaces that caught light in unexpected ways. Her dark hair fell to her waist, and her father's eyes burned with years of accumulated pain. "Miss Romano, you came." Katerina's voice carried a slight accent, musical even in its madness. "I was afraid you might disappoint me." "I keep my promises," Celeste said carefully, setting down her violin case. "Especially when innocent people's lives are at stake." "Innocent?" Katerina laughed, the sound echoing strangely in the chamber. "There are no innocent people in Damien Cross's world, only those who profit from theft and those who enable it." Movement in the shadows revealed Damien himself, bound to a chair but conscious, a gag preventing him from speaking. His eyes met Celeste's with desperate intensity. "The great thief himself," Katerina said conversationally. "I've been planning his death for so long I almost forgot how anticlimactic it would be. But then I realized simply killing him wasn't enough. I needed to destroy what he loves first." "I barely know him," Celeste protested. "But he loves you. I can see it in his eyes, hear it in the way his heart rate changes when you move." Katerina gestured to monitoring equipment hidden in the shadows. "Love makes men vulnerable, and vulnerability makes them pay attention." Celeste opened her violin case slowly. "What do you want me to play?" "My father's final composition. Requiem for the innocent." Katerina moved to the piano, her fingers finding the keys with practiced ease. "He wrote it for me, you know, after he realized someone was going to kill him. He wanted me to have something beautiful to remember him by, instead of just—" She gestured at the scarred walls.